China has built the world's largest high-speed rail or HSR network. More than 80% of major cities are connected by HSR, making it the country with the longest mileage of HSR in the world. However, how is the quality of these high-speed rails? Let's watch a video. Recently, news of quality problems with HSRs has again hit the top search on China's social media platform, Weibo. Someone has reported major safety hazards on one in Shandong province. It's being built by China Construction 8th Engineering Bureau, a company with a market capitalization of 230 billion yuan, or US 32.3 billion. According to Economic Information Daily, recently, a subcontractor of a Shandong high-speed railway, the Sanzhe Industrial Company, reported in real name that the general contractor of this project, China Construction 8th Engineering Bureau, is suspected of shoddy work, causing major safety hazards. The person in charge of Sanzhe, the subcontractor, repeatedly contacted personnel at the site and the general contractor to report the problem, but the reply he received was "do the job if you can and get out of the way if you can't." The reporter from the Economic Information Daily worked with professionals to investigate the matter. After on-site verification, it's confirmed that the problem of jerry building and cutting corners on materials, as reflected by the informant, is basically true. Other subcontractors have reported similar problems. This is unbelievable. It's a high-speed rail project with a total investment of nearly 30 billion yuan, or more than 4.2 billion US dollars, and they dare to jerry build and cut materials. This HSR is a major provincial project. It has a length of 193 kilometers, an investment of more than US 4.2 billion, and a design speed of 350 kilometers per hour. The project started construction in November 2020 and is expected to be open for operation by the end of October 2023. The general contractor to bid on the project is the China Construction 8th Engineering Bureau, and Sanzhe Company is one of its subcontractors. The person in charge of the company, the whistleblower, revealed that the threaded pile project of the railway foundation section he undertook didn't construct according to the design. According to the design, the pile height should be 14.5 to 15.5 meters, but the actual height is mostly between 10 to 13 meters, and 90% of the threaded piles didn't reach the design height. Two other subcontractors also revealed that more than half of the threaded piles didn't reach the design length, with some parts being 50% less than the original design. Doing this can save a considerable amount of concrete, and the general contractor China Construction 8th Bureau can lower a lot of expenses.
The design speed of the high-speed rail is 350 kilometers per hour, but the actual construction fails to meet the design requirements. It will lead to erratic train operation and even derailment accidents. At the same time, if the road bed is unstable, the safety of the train operation will be affected. We still remember a series of high-speed rail accidents, such as the Wenzhou tailing accident in 2011, the Zhengzhou high-speed rail derailment accident in 2012, and the Harbin high-speed rail bridge collapse accident in 2013. They were all caused by jerry-built construction work, and we hope that the relevant departments can step up their supervision, taking overseas high-speed rail lines, such as the one in Japan and the TGV in France as examples, and setting forth some very stringent quality standards and supervisory mechanisms, so as to ensure the quality and safety of the construction work.
The fundamental reason why China's HSRs have repeated quality problems is closely linked to corruption. HSRs are considered one of the most corrupt areas in China. It's an emerging industry with huge commercial value, and at the same time a source of political achievement for local officials. Thus, the room for corruption provided by this type of project is huge. In an environment of systemic corruption, white elephant projects are favored by many officials and businessmen looking to make a fortune. A white elephant is a possession that its owner cannot dispose of, and whose cost, particularly that of maintenance, is out of proportion to its usefulness. This is what the Nanjing station of the high-speed rail was like 12 years ago. Now, water is leaking in here. A tipster said that its foundation is sunken. Nanjing High-Speed Rail Station is known as the largest and most luxurious station in Asia, with an investment of more than $4.2 billion US. It covers an area of 700,000 square meters, about the size of 150 Tiananmen squares. So, are HSR stations in China better built today? No. Look at this one in China's affluent Jiangsu province in July 2023. On July 20th, 2023, this city was hit by torrential rains, and the Wuxi Metro announced the temporary closure of 2 exits after water washed down steps to form a waterfall at one of the entrances. Customer service said that when it rains heavily and the drain moves slowly at the exit, the insides of the station will become waterlogged. Liu Zhejuin, the former Minister of Railways, known as the founder of high-speed rail, was sentenced to death in 2013 for corruption, with a stay of execution. He is a typical example through which we can examine the corruption phenomena in the industry. Born in August 1953 to a peasant family in Hebei province, he started his career as a railroad worker with a junior high school education and served as a director of railroad branches in several cities. In 2003, he became the Minister of Railways, a post he held for 8 years. For him, the high-speed rail was the highlight of his career. The official opening of the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed rail on June 30th, 2011 was one of his major achievements. However, after the rail came into operation, a few accidents happened within half a month, making people doubt its safety and quality. For example, on July 10, 2011, the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed rail malfunctioned due to inclement weather in Shandong province. One passenger recalled the day like this. The train left Beijing South Station in the afternoon, and it was supposed to arrive in Shanghai at 9 p.m. It was caught in a thunderstorm on the way. The train suddenly stopped near the Tongzhou East Station, and the power went out. The compartment was pitch black, and the air conditioning was off. The train was completely sealed, and many people felt suffocated or dizzy. Only at the strong request of everyone did the crew open the doors for air. After about 2 hours, the train restarted. Along the way, the train experienced many power cuts and power restorations, stopping and starting, and it was almost 12 o'clock in the evening when we arrived in Shanghai. Yet, more serious accidents followed. On the night of July 23, 2011, 2 high-speed trains collided in Wenzhou, Jiangsu province, shocking the entire society. Officials announced that 40 people were killed, 192 were injured, and 132 were hospitalized. The real casualty, as we know, can be very different in China. In the wake of the incident, the Zhejiang Armed Police Force activated its rescue and relief plan and deployed 1,100 troops, including some members of the public who also participated in the rescue. However, inexplicably, the railway authorities announced the next morning after the accident that there were no signs of life inside the train and ordered the scene to be cleaned up, using a forklift to flatten the fallen carriages and then digging a pit to bury them on the spot. The move triggered heated reactions from the public, who thought there might be survivors, victims' bodies, and relics in the compartments, and that the move was an attempt to cover up the truth of the incident and destroy evidence of accountability. At the same time, when the authorities buried the train carriages, some kind-hearted people didn't give up the search and rescue and found a little girl alive in the wrecked train compartment. Her parents died in the accident. After the girl woke up, she called out to the nurse, "Mom, hug," bringing tears and heartbreaks to the surrounding people. China's HSRs are built by state-owned enterprises. There are no competitors. The construction funds are as much as they want to be, and the amount is constantly growing. The top echelons of the CCP play favor for each other, creating unimaginable loopholes for corruption. For example, the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railroad is 1,318 kilometers long. The total investment at its preliminary construction stage reached more than 220 billion yuan, or roughly $30.9 billion US, the equivalent cost of 14 million yuan per kilometer. It's stunning. And corruption goes beyond the construction part. More loopholes exist in the subsequent operation and maintenance, including corruption and misappropriation of public funds, misappropriation of loans, illegal fees and charges, off-book deposits, fraudulent compensation claims for demolition and relocation, diversion of funds and private coffers, and various other tricks. As a result, many rails are running at a high deficit. For example, the annual revenue of the high-speed rail from Guizhou to Guangzhou is only about US 140 million. It's not enough to repay the interest on the bank loan. There are also hidden rules for the procurement of materials and equipment in the construction of projects, etc. We can get a glimpse of the magnitude of the corruption by looking at the amount of money embezzled by Liu Jiejuan, one person alone. On the morning of June 9, 2013, Liu was charged with accepting bribes and abusing his power in a public trial at the Beijing Municipal No. 2 Intermediate Court. The prosecution alleged that Liu was suspected of accepting bribes amounting to over 64 million yuan, or 9.2 million US dollars. He was also accused of accepting 374 units of real estate, valued at over 120 million US dollars. The prosecutor's indictment also shows that in addition to the huge sums of cash in renminbi, US dollars and Hong Kong dollars, there were also stocks, company shares, cars, paintings, jewelry, and other items. Liu served as Minister of Railways for only 8 years. He has no great political background, but an individual rising from the bottom of the hierarchy. He was able to acquire so much wealth in a few years, which is astronomical and astounding. He isn't the only corrupt official in China's HSR industry. The former director of the Transportation Bureau of the Ministry of Railways, Zhang Shuguang, held enormous power in the rail industry. On the one hand, he was in charge of procuring railroad equipment and bidding, and on the other hand, he was in charge of the introduction of HSR technology. His wife owned 3 mansions in Los Angeles and had US $2.8 billion in deposits in the US and Switzerland. In 2013, he was sentenced to death for corruption, with a stay of execution. In addition, many other officials of the Ministry of Railways have been arrested and sentenced on charges of corruption. Even though China's HSRs have exposed more problems, individual leaders of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, and the country's leadership have still regarded them as the nation's pride and something to show off. Over the past decade, more HSRs have been built. In July 2016, China's State Council approved the medium and long-term railway network plan, which dramatically raised the mileage target for high-speed rails to 30,000 kilometers by 2020, introducing for the first time the concept of high-speed railroad network and turning the 4 verticals and 4 horizontals into 8 verticals and 8 horizontals. However, the economic cost of China's high-speed rail is very high, but the social benefits have fallen far short of expectations. While the lines and scale of high-speed rail continue to expand, it is facing serious disruption and losses due to underutilization. The construction of the HSR requires the demolition of many residential units and other buildings, as well as the use of agricultural land. This alone causes huge economic losses to the public. Those who implement the project make money, and everyone who participates profits a lot, but the national resources and funding are drained significantly. Informants have disclosed that the prospect of interests and benefits have all the provinces making great efforts pushing forward the construction of the high-speed rails. There is a saying that once the high-speed rail is completed, the place will become empty. For example, while 30 billion yuan was invested in the Chang'an high-speed rail station, and it's been in operation for more than 2 years, due to a lack of funds needed for final approval, it has never been formally inspected and approved. This high-speed rail station, the largest in Asia, was the first major infrastructure project to be built in Chang'an New Area, Xi Jinping's pet project. It has an area equivalent to 66 soccer fields, making it magnificent. Yet, at the beginning of 2023, visitors could see the station was overgrown with weeds outside and empty and deserted inside. Another station in Nanjing, Jiangsu Province hasn't opened since it was built in 2010. The station's lobby is a mess with construction debris everywhere. Another one, located in Nanjing as well but in a desolate area, was completed in 2011 but has never officially opened due to cost and low capacity. In April 2020, China's railroad authorities closed 2 stations on the Shanghai-Nanjing high-speed rail. They were described by Chinese media as zombie stations. In July 2023, the Chinese media published a chart showing the number of completed high-speed rail stations in China that had become zombie stations. The number is as many as 21. Today, China's high-speed railways and other types of railroads are owned by the China State Railway Group Corporation, a large monopolistic state-owned enterprise. In the general public's imagination, China's railroad system should be profitable, but financial reports in recent years have shown that it has been losing money heavily. In April 2021, China National Railway Group disclosed its financial condition. It suffered a net loss of over 55 billion yuan, or about US 8.7 billion in 2020, which is the equivalent of a daily loss of 24 million US dollars. As of the first half of 2022, China National Railway Group's debt reached 6 trillion yuan, or about US 843.5 billion. Nowadays, tickets for this high-speed rail are too expensive. Can't they be cheaper?
If it's getting any cheaper, it's going to go bankrupt. You have to know that China's high-speed railways are losing an average of $400 to $500 million a day, and the money they charge you for the tickets isn't even enough to pay back the interest to the banks.
Why is it losing so much money?
It's just that the costs are high in every way. How much does a high-speed rail cost? Just laying this rail track, a kilometer almost costs 100 million or 200 million.
Why are the Chinese HRSs, with China having a population of 1.4 billion, losing money? Our channel has done an episode on this before. If you're interested, you can check it out. Here we summarize a few reasons that have led to the current status of China's high-speed rails. First, obsessed with construction scale and speed while ignoring the actual needs of the market, local government officials are inclined to push for big projects and infrastructure in order to achieve political results, but have often overlooked the debt servicing ability of the local government. The high cost of investing in HSR construction has resulted in a distant recovery of costs. Because the construction of the National Railway is mostly funded by government subsidies and debt financing, it has to bear a heavy burden of debt and interest after completion. Secondly, the capital invested in the early stage of construction is excessive. In terms of cost, the cost per kilometer of a 350 km/h project is RMB 129 million, or about US 18 million. While the cost per kilometer of a 250 km/h project is US 12.23 million. This means that for a high-speed rail with 100 kilometers distance, the financial expenditure is at least US 1.4 billion. Furthermore, the operation cost is high, as the HSR is powered by electricity. It means enormous consumption of electricity. According to relevant information, the hourly power consumption of a 350 km/h high-speed rail is 9,600 kilowatt-hours, and China's industrial electricity charge is about $1 per kilowatt-hour. It means that the high-speed rail needs to spend about 10,000 yuan per hour on electricity. Adding labor costs, the hourly cost reaches 20,000 to 30,000 yuan, or about US $4,200. The most profitable high-speed train, Beijing to Shanghai, for example, costs more than 100,000 yuan for a 5-hour trip. Based on a passenger rate of 80%, the actual revenue for one trip is between 280 and 330,000 yuan. The problem is how many high-speed rails have an 80% passenger rate like the Beijing-Shanghai route. 50% capacity is already pretty good. This would mean a very slow return of capital. In some cases, the HSR has been in the red for 5 or 6 years after it was completed. In the first half of 2020 alone, the net profit loss of HRSs nationwide was as high as 95.5 billion yuan. Against the backdrop of China's economic downturn and the debt-ridden local governments, the huge losses incurred by many HSRs across China will aggravate the strain on local finances. In all likelihood, the HSRs have become the gray rhino, a highly probable, high-impact, yet neglected threat, hindering China's economic development.